So here's where I've got to so far. I've got the new front panel fitted in. All the rust in these front corners, the front area here, and these front quarters is all taken care of. And I bought some sheet metal and some tubing, and I'm going to make that brace that goes underneath from this. So let me show you where I've got to so far. Stick around. I was all ready to shorten this, and then I realized I have a lot of access to this metal in here that needs some work and maybe some paint. So I started working on that instead of doing it afterwards, which would be harder to get to. I was thinking I was going to save the front panel here and just replace the ends of it. So I even made metal to go in there. But I ended up ordering a new front panel instead. There's too much rust up in under here and in these corners up behind here I didn't like. And it's dented. It bows out down here at the bottom. And on the inner side, it's kind of rusty. So I just ordered a new one. The rest of this is going to be okay. And I cut this out. And I got a new piece of metal to weld in there. And here is going to be inside here. And I got that all ready to go. At the bottom of the front panel here, I'm drilling out the rivets, but I've put in some screws as placeholders in case I want to get it back in exactly the same position. I've used the abrasive paint remover wheel. You can see where the spot welds are now, and some of them I've already drilled out. I just need to decide how much of this I'm going to cut out. So far, I've cut out this entire panel of this corner edge. I'm going to clean up this part, and I'm going to replace the curved part at the very bottom here. Don't have to worry about this because I'm going to replace the entire panel. I've cut out some more of the front panel here, even though I'm not using it, just to get better access to this down here in the corner. And this is just held together with a couple of 1/4-inch screws so far. I'm going to clean this with a wire brush and see how good it looks. So on the inside corner of this bed right here, I'm going to replace this flange, and I'm going to go in a couple inches, cut that out, and I've made this template, and that's about what it's going to look like. So I went around the whole vehicle and made more templates of little problem areas I knew I was going to have to replace. So here's one for this lower corner. Because the other side is ate up, and I've already cut part of it out. Here's the two pieces still spot welded together. This is the inside. This is what's on the outside. And I made a paper template of the inside, transferred it to metal, and kept shaping it till I got it to fit right. So I bent and tweaked on this piece of metal till it fit right in here. There it is, tacked in. Looks like a good fit. I've got this piece welded in there. I'm going to grind the welds off. Here's what the inside looks like after some grinding. So here's the outside after grinding, and I still have to add this piece of metal right here. I'm going to put some paint on that before I do. I really wasn't planning on removing this piece like this, but it does give you a lot of access to issues that might be in here, like there's a crack right there. Here's a piece of metal I'm going to use. Here's some of the paper templates I made to get the sizing. So what I'm going to do is lay this out on here. Get the length. Now, I'm going to add over an inch to that, then cut this out. So a couple of years ago, I made this right here. It's got a 1/2 inch round metal on there, and this is 1/2 inch. And this is for clamping metal in a vise and bending a radius on it. Now this will do a 1/4 inch radius, so I made another one to do a 3/16 radius. I'll show you how that works. What I've got, the one with the bar, 3/16 radius, 3/8 bar, 3/8 thick flat stock, and then just an angle iron that's flat. And I'll be able to clamp this metal in between there and bend a radius. Workbench is a little messy here, but there's 2 vices on it. There's a couple different ways you could use this. You can put it between the 2 vices, or just use the 1 vise. So on the ends of this, there's a couple of flat spots that you could use this and help hold them straighter. Just put that on there loosely. I'm going to slip my piece of metal in between there. You can see the pencil line, and I'm going to make that pencil line even with the top of that rounded stock. I've got the vise nice and tight. So I got more sticking up here than I need, so I'm just going to mark where that goes, and I'm going to trim that off. So now I got to get a radius in it that starts somewhere around here and goes all the way to about here. So to get the radius in this thing, I've got this shrinker that I got at Harbor Freight a couple years ago. Now it says it's not supposed to do 16 gauge metal, only up to 18 gauge mild steel. But we're going to try this 16 gauge. You can see it's starting to bend, but it's got a ways to go. I'm super close. I may have actually bent it a hair too tight of a radius. I've got the front bottom flange on this side mostly welded in. I'm probably going to have to end up replacing some of this metal, so I'm not going to weld this. The other side mostly welded in, but I'm going to have to remove the gas filler bump there, so I'm not going to weld any more of that. After test fitting this front wall a few times, there's an issue right here where I have to do some fitment. It's a raised area that the flange over here on the back of the truck is supposed to fit up into, and I'm going to have to cut some of this off to fit that flange. I took and put the panel on, instead of on the inside, I put it where it was on the outside, and I marked the bottom of it right here and the outside. And then I made a little template of that recess, and I'll match that up with the bottom, mark it at the top, and I'll know what to cut off right up here. Here's the little template I made for it. And to be honest with you, I'm not so sure if that indentation was really in the original 70s Ford front wall. All right, turned out to be a pretty good fit. The front corner of the bed, I cut all this out and I laid it out on this fresh piece of metal. I'll cut that out. Now you don't have to worry about all this rust that was on the inside. My son a number of years ago dragged home this heavy piece of metal with these holes in it, and it's perfect for a welding platform. It's not even fastened onto this workbench. I can move it wherever I want. Hanging over the edge. Since doing all these spot welds can be very tedious, you don't want to overheat your metal, I suggest having a lot of different projects to do simultaneously. Like hit these, hit them over here, then the front flange on this, I'm going to fill in these spot weld holes here. Just have numerous things to do. I'm taking this stake pocket cover off. I'm going to clean all this up, but there's a couple of big dents right here that I want to fix too. I used a hammer and a dolly to get this dent out, and it looks pretty good. Barely a dent. I sandblasted both sides of this a little bit and painted it. This is some weldable primer I've got on there. And I had these self-tapping screws to keep this in the right location. So I ended up doing exactly the same thing on the other side as I did over here. And fixing any issues on these front edges up in here before moving on. I spent a couple of days on these panels making sure all the rust was gone. And fitment of the front panel. So I'm ready to put that front panel back in there. And since this was all put together with self-tapping sheet metal screws, it should go right back into place. I clamped this angle iron in here to keep these side walls from spreading apart or moving. So let's get that front wall fitted. I've got these 2x4s sitting right here just to hold this from slipping down in case I don't get it in behind these ears quite right. So you need to put that on the inside of those ears. There we go. I got it in. And since I had gotten this position, even though I'm not using the bottom brace, it's got to get replaced, I did put some self-tapping screws in there for temporary. So this whole thing is all put together with the self-tapping sheet metal screws right now, and I need to add some into the front panel to hold all this together, and I'll be replacing the bottom brace. I'm not going to permanently spot weld these until I get the new bottom brace made and I get ready to shorten it, make sure all that fitment's right. Then I'll do all these spot welds. Well, now I'm ready to start cutting up this metal and make that front brace. Yay!
Marvelous.